Hi there, and welcome to episode number 424 of Simplifying Live. With me, Shashank Nigam, your host, and the CEO of Simplifying. As you can tell by the bookshelf behind me, I'm an avid reader. I love to read. It's what keeps me sane when traveling a lot, when working with lots of airlines, and to be honest, when my two little girls are running all around me. Gives me a way to get outside and look at what's happening outside and bring those ideas in and apply it to my life. One of the books I recently read is 30 Days and 30 Years. This is a book by Azran Osman Rani. Some of you may remember Azran because he was the CEO, the founding CEO of AirAsia X. And I have an interesting story of my first meeting with Azran. That was in January of 2009, 10 years ago in Singapore. We met at the aviation festival that was happening there. And it was my first conversation with him, and within minutes, he was telling me about how they are questioning the assumption around airline schedules. And when I dug further what exactly he meant, Azran told me that they're going to be flying their A340s at that time that they had at different times of the day on different days. Why does a flight need to take off at the same time and land at the same time every day? If they want to maximize utilization of the aircraft, then they will fly it at a different time. It's not business travelers who they are targeting ultimately. And that just shook me. Like, wait a minute, isn't it a rule to have the flight departing at the same time to the same destination every day? But if you think about it, it's not really a rule. You look at your boarding pass and you see the boarding gate and the boarding time, and you don't really care what time the flight took off the day before. And that's how our relationship started, because he was questioning assumption about low cost long haul. AirAsia X was the first low cost long haul airline in Asia for sure. And he was questioning everything from utilization to airline schedules to how to hire to how to do marketing, how to launch routes. And there were a few interesting projects that we managed to almost work together on, given how unpredictable the world of airlines is. And that's what the book is about. The book takes you through a roller coaster ride that has been Azran's last three startups. That's AirAsia X, that's iFlix, which is the Netflix of Asia, and Naluri, his latest healthcare startup, which is now in a Stanford accelerator, nonetheless. 30 Days, 30 Years. Why I found this to be an incredible read. His premise is that you want to plan for 30 days and 30 years at the same time. Gone are the days of annual plans and 5-year plans and the vision and mission and mantras and B hacks, but instead, companies got to have a 30-year vision, just like AirAsia does. Now everyone can fly. In 30 years from starting off AirAsia, everyone can fly. Similarly, iFlix, the other company that he was part of, they had the vision of 1 billion people in Asia and other parts of the world having very good access to streaming television on their mobile devices, a bit like Netflix. And that's the 30 year, which is purpose. What is your purpose? Why are you doing something? And 30 days is something that I could personally relate to quite a bit, because he talks about 30-day cycles for projects, 30-day cycles for team reviews, 30-day cycles for being curious. That's the part I love best about the book, and it truly resonated because as a true outsider to the industry 10 years ago, I have just been curious enough to learn new things to be able to work with lots of airlines. And that's exactly what Azran has done. He's always been curious to question assumptions, curious about new people to bring them on the team, curious about new routes. Curiosity kept him agile, curiosity kept his companies agile. And there are a few very interesting things. You might think that this is just about startups and stories, but at the base of it, I found that the book is about scaling up. There are tons of books about startups. There are very few good books about scaling a startup up, scaling up a startup, and that's what Azran's book is about. I'll give you a simple example. Now, as you can as I mentioned, they used to have BHAGs, or big, hairy, audacious goals. And one of the 30-year purposes of AirAsia is now everyone can fly. At AirAsia X, they broke it down into a 1, 2, 3, 4 framework, which is $1 billion in revenue within 5 years, at 2 US cents per seat mile cost, utilization 3 out of 4 hours, and 4 out of 5 seats were to be filled with happy passengers. So a really good happy passenger ratio. What's interesting is he has broken down processes throughout this book, which is what I found quite useful, because it's one thing to say now everyone can fly, or iFlix saying 1 billion people watching streaming television, but breaking it down is what he has done really well, and he explains that very well, breaking down company culture, breaking down daily stand-up meetings, breaking down purpose, the 30-year purpose that I talk about. And that's what I found fascinating about this book. It breaks down the steps you need to take to be a success scaling up. How do you scale up over 10 years of a company? And you can imagine it's a roller coaster ride. It's the airline business, multiple startups, but with the backdrop of this 30 days of being curious and 30 years purpose. Curiosity plus purpose gets you through that roller coaster ride. I truly enjoyed that read. Now, many of you might wonder, how does this compare with Tony Fernandez book, which came out not too long ago? And I did read both of them, as you can see from the post-its I've got here. And the key difference is I love both the books, to be honest. Tony's book is full of stories, individual stories, personal stories. They are stories you can tell your team and narrate to your team. They are very personal. They are often very emotional. I was in tears through one of the chapters. Azran's book is much more process oriented. It's very structured, gives you a glimpse into Azran's mind. And he has little sections like this workbook section, which at the end of each chapter it says, what are the actions you're inspired to do differently. It starts with a section which allows you to write down your goals, and hopefully through the book you can crystallize them as well. So use it like a workbook, use it like a reference book, a great read, and great insight into a very sharp and agile and curious mind, that of Azran Ousmanrani. What's incredible about his book is he wrote it while being on a hospital bed. Azran had a very severe accident while cycling just last year, and when I spoke with him, like, wow, I'm amazed that you actually wrote this book. He says, well, that's the only thing I could do, because all I could do was type. As soon as I could type, I started writing. It was much later I could walk and get back running marathons and triathlons. So, Azran, I'm in awe that you came up with this book. If you want to read it, go check out 30daysand30years.com, and feel free to connect with him directly on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and Facebook as well. Meanwhile, I'd love to hear your thoughts on books like this, or if you've picked up your copy yet, feel free to tag me or Azran. And meanwhile, you guys have a fantastic day, and I will catch you tomorrow. Till then, have a great one. Bye-bye.